area, this is Pompeii, after the volcano eruption. But this is an Italian area. They have a sushi restaurant here. But primarily, this area right here was Italian, and we went up here for gelato, which is an Italian ice cream. And so, yeah, you got Rosebuds over here. And now you have Potbellies and Hawkeyes, and I don't know. Is that an Italian bar? Because we can have Italian bars. Not every bar is an Irish pub. So they can have an Italian pub, truly. And they feature Italian cuisine in that. And it's in this area where this used to be huge for Italian food. You think there'd be Italian grocery stores. Here you go. A little Italian something. I don't know if it was a grocery store. But this is the area. Oh, Kong dog. I like corn dog. Kong dog. And you got Greek. So it's a little bit more diversified. So, but this used to be the big corridor for Italian food. So now you have an Indian restaurant here. So it's coming multicultural. So here's a pasta and pizza place. And Peanut Park. And so it's Italiano. So mangia means eat in Italian. That's what my friend Dominic's grandmother and mother used to prepare food specially for me. Like grape leaves and others. And they'd be like, Michael, manja. Michael, eat. We prepared so much food for you. But they were awesome to me. Dominic's mother and grandmother. So, and so was his sister, Leslie. So anyways, I don't know if this is, kind of an Italian corridor anymore, restaurant-wise, because you have Greektown, you have Chinatown. I wanted Koreatown to come back. And so I thought Chicago was nice because Chicago was segregated. And now, for the other people that said, oh, that's a horrible thing. But no, you get unique culture and you get it very deep. So it's a way to go deep in culture where you don't have a lot of that other places where they can go very culturally deep. But in Chicago, it was the most segregated city in the country, and it naturally went that way. And that allows for it to go very deep into culture. So neighborhoods become very distinctive in their culture. So it was a good thing. One thing about integration, you integrate through trade and going to school, and the kids go to elementary schools and so on. There's many ways to get diversity. But what happened is now these neighborhoods are losing their cultural, like we lost the German neighborhoods, and there used to be this, Chicago had this, and now everything's so blended. I mean, they had their, like Al's Beef, an Italian place. And so, across the street from now, a Subway. So, they have some Italian stuff. But the whole point is, and I think this is the gelato. Yep, this is the Italian lemonade stand. So, this is where we used to go. Right here. Simon and my small group. And it had really good Italian ice. So now you have a Thai bowl. So, okay, now we're talking blended neighborhoods. And that's fine. But is every neighborhood now a blended neighborhood? And there is no cultural distinction in neighborhoods anymore? And that's what I'm saying, that I think we're overdoing it, and everybody keeps on pushing it. It's racism. It's hatred. I don't know, but we're losing all this identity and everything is becoming the same. everything is becoming the same. It's becoming this mix-itch where you get a little, and so you lose Greektown, or you'll lose Chinatown. Now you lose this, that Italian Taylor Street was where the Italian restaurants were, and so on. And it's not like the aldermen can't revitalize. And so the South Side, I would assume they want to open up some unique African flair, right? Like they did, the immigrants or the refugees did in Roger Park. They opened up an Ethiopian restaurant, and my friend Scott was supposed to take me to Ethiopian food, and he did rave about it. He said he liked Ethiopian food. And then he talked about all the Ethiopian Jews. So there's different types of Ethiopian food. And so there is Jewish Ethiopian food. So there are a lot of Jews that were Ethiopian, black Jews. So, again, I don't know. We're losing, like every country is, because it's racism. You can't discriminate, and you need to make everybody a resident of your country. And so then there's no more Germany, no more Japan, no more China, no more India, no more and everything is just mix-ish. So I think the world's going to become very boring if we do that. And people are afraid of losing heritage. Well, that's one way to lose all the heritage. So, and that's why I hate these people. They're like, it's all racism. No, it's not. It's called preservation, historical preservation, preserving ethnic groups and cultures, ethnic and ethnic culture, and preserving races. So, I don't get it. I think we're overdoing it. And I'm for interracial marriage. I want to marry an Asian girl. I was trying to, but that's a satellite. And I looked at my whole family, and they were all marrying white people. So 99% one way, and me the other way. So there was a core in satellite. And that's fine. But again, the merchandise mark looks beautiful. And then you got the Sears Tower right there. Now the Willis Tower. I mean, if they're going to change the name, can they put the name somewhere where I can see it over and over and over and over again? So I forget about Sears, I guess, since they bought it for the naming rights. And if anyone doesn't know, Willis is an insurance company. And what do the Brits specialize in? Property casualty. So their forte is property casualty. So, but again, that's fine. If it's going to be Willis, then that's fine. But let's brand it. And so eventually it becomes the Willis Tower, but what does it happen if they sell it? And then it becomes something else, and then it becomes something else. I mean, I don't think the Sears Tower is going anywhere anytime soon. And this is the thing about, professional ballparks, the U.S. Cellular Field, and then now Guaranteed Rate Field, and, why don't they get it right and get a good partner and stick with that partner, and the partner's loyal to them and they're loyal to the partner? One thing about the Allstate Arena, it's been the Allstate Arena for decades and decades. They should redevelop it. It needs to be, but still, it's a good partnership. And they stick with each other and they help each other out. So, like changing the name to 360. Why didn't it stay John Hancock? The city can stop them from renaming buildings by deeming it a historical name. And John Hancock was one of our founding fathers. And we had the John Hancock building. And it was very famous. And then Boston has John Hancock, so it was us in Boston. And so John Hancock was the most recognized name in the United States, and because he was the most recognized founding father. So that's why Manulife bought him, read the information. Manulife bought John Hancock because they liked insurance, but they bought him, number one reason, because of the name. Because it was the most recognized name in America. Everybody knows John Hancock. You take a constitution test and so on and so forth. And so they wanted very much to be named because they were here as Manulife, but they weren't catching on. They had a good 401k platform, which is now John Hancock's 401k platform, but it wasn't catching on. They were struggling because people weren't familiar with their name, weren't comfortable with them, even with a good platform. So they realized they had to buy a name. And if they're going to buy a name, they wanted to buy a quality company as so. And so they found that John Hancock had the name they wanted, most recognized in the United States, founding father, and they got a quality company with it, which they improved upon. They did improve upon. So, but the whole point is they weren't getting any traction. It's a Canadian company that owns John Hancock. But again, they weren't getting any traction. So as Manulife, so they had to buy the name. So if you're going into China or India, Gandhi is a very recognized name. So I don't know if there's a Gandhi insurance company. Or I don't know if there's Ma as a recognized name. Now, Gandhi has positive sentiment. Ma is very mixed. There are other people that probably have positive sentiment in China. And I'm talking about from their heritage. And the Han is the main group, ethnic group. So, and they're 92%, so there has to be somebody in there that, Chinese feel very warm, fuzzy about. So, again, they did it so they get instant name recognition. Everybody knows John Hancock. Now they need to know what John Hancock does, but they already know the name, and once they get the name, the correlation to what they do was very easy. And so it turned out to be highly effective. But they were right. I used to talk to Manulife, and I was dealing with their people to do the 401k way before John Hancock. They bought John Hancock because they had a good platform. But again, no one really knew them, and they were struggling. Name recognition. Who the hell is Manulife? And to get the kind of name recognition such as John Hancock, it would have cost them a fortune in advertising, and it would have took them years and years and years and years. Truly, they would have had to do constant branding and branding and branding and branding and branding and branding. So, yes, and that's why I mentioned Wintrust before. They keep the name of the community bank, powered by, or, Wintrust, somehow. They intertwine it, but they keep the name of the local bank. So people feel it's theirs uniquely. But the whole point is they don't have to go out and rebrand, and they know the name, and they have the community, and then they see Wintrust, and they're like, oh, okay, you're part of Wintrust. But you're a wholly owned subsidiary of Wintrust. They are. Each of them chartered and so on. So, beautiful view here. And this is unique. This is not Central Park. Chicago writes on the buildings here. This is unique to Chicago in going across a Grant Park. I don't know how many downtowns in anywhere, even in Central Park, they don't do this because it's by the water and so on, I think. And so you don't really see this. This is unique to Chicago. So them doing this, the Blue Cross Blue Shield building and so on, this is unique to Chicago in that across the park. Maybe they're doing it on other buildings, but not across Grant Park, not across a park like this. So it's very unique because everybody can see it from the park. You can see it from the south looking this way, and everybody that's in those buildings, when they look south, they can see the writing on the building. And let me flip, you don't want to see me. So again, this is very unique. This is Chicago very own. So if everybody does this, then property values die. So believe me, the uniqueness wears off, and like, yeah, Shanghai's got it, Tokyo's got it, so on and so forth. So some things you don't want to change, meaning you don't want to syndicate. The value grows here, and so the property in the community grows here. You don't want to syndicate everything. So there's a difference. When I say some things like concrete, okay, but it doesn't have to be Ozinga. It can be a wholly owned subsidiary, totally different name. So again, here you want like Prudential. Do you know there's Prudential in the UK? Not the same. Prudential here is Jackson. Jackson is a British company. It's called Prudential in Britain. Prudential here, but in Britain, they already have Prudential. So Prudential would have a problem going into Britain because they can't use their name. So they have to change the name. Just like Jackson, when Prudential came here from Great Britain, they changed their name to Jackson. But again, a founding father they used. And oh yeah, you know, all the slaves, they wanted recognition, so they grabbed the founding father's names. So that's why you have Samuel L. Jackson. That's not his root name. But after then, you had them grabbing the names of the founding fathers as their name, as their American name, their last name. So, anyways, this is unique to Chicago. And Chicago shouldn't be thinking about, how do you say, sorry for the word, I don't know if it's bastardizing. So they gotta be very careful on what you want to syndicate. Because if you do, then this becomes less unique. You're doing all kinds of posters and everything. This becomes less unique. Tailgating. I would move back and not be stuck in the intersection, but the satanic guy behind me decides that he wants to get right on my bumper. So it forces me out into... So these people are all devils. Truly, they're going to burn. They do things that are very satanic. So, again, that's why I don't pull right up on something. Sometimes they have to make an adjustment. So you put them at jeopardy. So you should be put at jeopardy. And that's an eye for an eye. You put me at jeopardy, God puts you at jeopardy. And that's why when you do something wrong, God steps away from you. Now, let's see what horrible things end up coming in your life. One way or another, they're coming. But you choose to do that. But believe me, they come. So I just laugh at people. You think, oh, a year from now, 2 years, it's coming. And you won't know when, but it will come. And so how much tragedy depends. Just like I told Michael to stop. You're going to have a heart attack. He has a heart attack. And he thought, I'm in great shape. What are you talking about? No, it's coming. I guarantee you. No, it's just when. And like they say, revenge is best served cold, when you least anticipate it. And so I laugh. All these people are suckers. So you do stupid things, that's all on you, buddy. Here's the Chicago Art Institute. And the lions are unique to Chicago. Now are we going to get another art institute in another city and we're going to put lines in front of them? Then that's no longer unique. So all these posters down here and all that are unique to Chicago if you take the picture, but if you start bastardizing it, then these shots of Chicago and this beautiful skyline and so on aren't worth shit anymore. So that's why you develop things that are different. They get their own, you got your own. So I don't understand what they don't understand. We have Susan G. Komen. That's a thing from here, Chicago. They have the ribbon, breast cancer, okay. But when they go somewhere else, the ribbon is an American thing. When you go internationally, the ribbon doesn't really mean much. So they have their unique thing, so you have to cater to their society, find something that means similar significance in their society. So you can't use the ribbon. But that keeps it unique to America. When people see it, they're like, oh, it's Susan G. Komen, America. So we're losing all of our recognition as a country. So what is American? And this is what I'm saying. They have heritage, and you've got to develop it. And if you're doing architect, you research and what is theirs, and you help them develop and flourish their culture. Because if not, they lose their culture. And so I don't want you to water down their culture. I want you to embrace it and enhance it. And so here has something unique. There they get something else. So anyways, and then we have the Wrigley building with clocks on it. And it's right across the street from the Chicago Tribune building. And now those are big concrete buildings, like the Aon building. Now, it has different forms, and so you have these different designs that are concrete, not brick. And then you have the steel buildings, like the Sears Tower and John Hancock. Those are steel buildings, and so you have these different materials the buildings were made of. And so they have, different features that make them unique. So, again, these are things that is Chicago's very own, like the Chicago hot dog. It's uniquely Chicago. And so, do you come to Chicago and get something that's uniquely Chicago, or is it everywhere? And that's why I mentioned Australia. In Australia, they have beer that you can only get in Australia. Each region of Australia has its own beer, and they don't want to sell it anywhere else but in that region. So my teacher, he went over there and he went to the different regions, and they had beer, but they weren't looking to send those international. They wanted to stay there. So you had to go there to get it. So They wanted you to come to them, not them to come to you. So that's where they get tourism. And that's what makes tourism unique. But if you're going to them all the time, then there's no point to tourism. So everybody can get everything anywhere. And some things should be unique to this location. Yes, I know the mash thing with the ribs, but some things need to be unique that you don't. Because then people come and go to Geno's East in Chicago and they go into the store and, you know, they buy stuff to go. But they have to come to Chicago and they take pizza to go. And it's another way to protect intellectual properties. Because they can only get it here and they can't have it there. And so they got to come here, pick it up. That was the whole thing with the Hard Rocks. Each of them had their their T-shirts. Hard Rock Chicago, Hard Rock London. And you couldn't get it anywhere. You couldn't buy it online. And people wait 1 to 2 hours in line to buy a T-shirt. Because you couldn't get the Hard Rock Chicago T-shirt in London, or you couldn't buy it online. You had to buy it from the store. Now, somebody could buy it for you. They didn't limit it, I don't know, but you can't resell it per se. But this is what made the Hard Rock so famous, that it drove business and people went around and collecting the T-shirts. So they had to go to New York to get the Hard Rock New York, the Hard Rock London. They had to go to London, Hard Rock Chicago, Hard Rock Tokyo. They had to go there to get it. You couldn't get it. You couldn't purchase it online. You could look at it, but you couldn't buy it. It's only exclusive. So, the water tower. So, I don't understand. And that's what I talked about Gucci in that. How are you making the Gucci store, the Victoria's Secret store, uniquely Chicago? So, they want to come to Chicago. You're trying to drive sales. They can get Victoria's Secret anywhere, but they can't get your combination or your flair or whatever it may be. And that drives the uniqueness. But again, there's a loss of everything. Everything is just everywhere now. And it shouldn't be that way. So, you know, you're unique. It's going to get boring. Everybody is everybody. And so now everybody is the same. Truly, they have the same experience. You eat Geno's East. I eat Geno's East. They eat Geno's East. We all eat Geno's East, right? And so you don't have to come to Chicago to get the pizza. You can, and everybody now has everybody's experiences, because all you have to do is just ship it to them. So, I don't get it. Everything is becoming watered down, and there's nothing culturally unique anymore. So, it's nice. You have to come here to Chicago's Greek town. They should have shirts that says Chicago's very own Greek town, Chicago's very own Chinatown. And they could say it, but you have to get it from this Chinatown in Chicago. And so you can only get the shirt by coming here to Chicago's Chinatown. And so they should be driving inward. And then people see it and are like, oh, and it has the mistakes, but the universities and that. And so on. So Northwestern in every country? Not so much. So you got to be very careful when you do satellites. So that means that you don't want to come here. And so you lose your mystique and prestige. Going to Harvard and going up there and being in and living there is part of the Harvard experience, part of the University of Chicago experience, part of the Northwestern experience. And so you don't want everything to be everywhere. So you have to be very careful you don't overdo it and dilute it like our currency. We have to be very careful and not dilute it. It's a reserve currency of the world, but we have to be very careful on how much we print, because that affects the appreciation of the currency. The appreciation of the currency. So if you want to water it down, then you water it down, and every other country, it gets watered down too. And then why hold the dollar? So if you want to dilute it and lose all its value, you can. Overprint. Hyperinflation. How does hyperinflation work? They overprint the money. And so they had in Germany wheelbarrows, and they would let you out after a few hours of work, and people would have wheelbarrows of German currency and go to the market, and they'd be paying like unbelievable amounts of German currency. It was worthless. People just burned it, threw it away. So do you want to do that? You want to water it down where it becomes worthless, and it's more susceptible to a bubble. Because if demand goes back, and then it implodes. So you're very likely to implode. So you're very much more going to take a shock. So you got to be careful about diluting. So it's a balancing act. But everybody here is selling away. And that's not what I was talking about. There's things that should be uniquely here, and you can't get them anywhere else. And that's the whole thing of the second coming, right? Can't get it anywhere else, and it'll never be again. It's a one-time deal, and a one-time deal only. So, never again. I used to play the songs to my friends, but they didn't understand. These will be the days you will remember. If these days, and they're never coming again. So, your grandkids won't have them. Your great-grandkids won't have them. No one will have them. So, uniquely to this time and this time only. So, it's different. But you can go and water it down. But there's no more Pablo Picassos. And so everything is unique, and his stuff gets rarer as time goes by. There are other artists, but there's never another Pablo Picasso. So that's what I don't understand getting a girlfriend. To me, it's a no-brainer. But I guess to them, it's not a no-brainer. So I guess they think different. Okay. Well, we have a differing of opinions. So, anyways, I'm going back towards the casino, and I'm going to end the video. But what is Chicago? What is unique about Chicago? And how are we going to keep it that way? So, I like that the city's very segregated. That they should be developing on the south side, the businesses, restaurants, culture. And so it's one thing you can have an interchange where sometimes you come down and sometimes and they go there, you go here. It's called trade. And so I like that we have these unique areas. And I told Jen a long time ago, I wanted Koreatown. And then I told KB Kim, or Lily Kim, I wanted to bring back Koreatown. It was here. It was here when I was growing up. And it's sad that it disappeared. But it was unique. There's a big K-Town in Los Angeles. I don't want that disappearing. I like Koreatown in Los Angeles. So I don't want that to die out, but the American Koreans, they have kids and they pass on the business and the heritage and so on. And so it stays uniquely K-Town. So there were K-Town in New York, but Chicago lost to K-Town, as I told my friend Steve. You know, build it out. It's uniquely New York K-Town. There's Los Angeles K-Town. There was a Chicago K-Town. I want Koreatown back. So I want the heritage to come back. Uniquely Chicago's K-Town. But there wasn't all these K-Towns all over. So there were in these 3 big cities, but some reason Chicago, but New York was losing its Chinatown. So was San Francisco. I want to preserve their heritage in that. And, you know, it preserves the history, and then future generations get to go and experience Chinatown, Chicago, Chinatown, New York, Chinatown, San Francisco. And it doesn't mean they can't modernize the buildings and everything, but they preserve the culture. And that's the main point. And so when they do it, they modernize, but they try to preserve the culture and the modernization. That's one thing I agreed with Soldier Field. They tried to preserve the culture. They didn't do a good job. But the whole point is they can move it and integrate it into the new stadium and do a better job. So it doesn't have to disappear. They can integrate it. So this is where the new casino's coming, I think, Bally's. So anyways, I'm going to leave it here, and I gotta go to the bathroom. Anyways, and here's Marchetti's. This has a beautiful area, the Galleria Marchetti. And I talked to my friend Gino and Tommy. Why didn't they get involved with their uncle? Amend the fences, I told them. Figure out how to mend the fences. And then they can open up catering and that. Yeah, Tommy is a restaurateur and Gino did the front of the house management and Tommy is the cook. And if they work with their uncle, they can bring back Marchetti's. It was unique. It had presidents and it was a long-standing restaurant. I would love them to open up another Marchetti's. And I don't know what happened to all the memorabilia. They had all these pictures, and I went there. They had Peroni. They were an Italian restaurant, and that's where I went and got Peroni. And first was at Marchetti's. And again, it was unique. It was unique to Chicago, and they visited and so on. So I don't know what happened to all that nostalgia. Did they keep any of those? And they had tons of pictures. That stuff's worth a fortune. So I don't know what they did with any of that. And I don't know what the situation with their uncle is. But they should think about mending and bringing back this and re-emerging, you know? So but hopefully they didn't trash all the memorabilia. But if they did, then they have to figure out maybe they can regenerate it from old photos. So they should go ask patrons and that to if they have any photos and that. And then from the photos, you can see the photos and that were on the wall. And then you can regenerate them. Now, they'd be a copy, but they can be an original copy. You're not publishing them. And so they're going back, so there should be people that took tons of photos in the restaurant and they could grab all the nostalgia from the photos. They have to have photos. Their uncle has to have photos of the restaurant and family members and other people they know. Like my friend Dominic was there. I would assume he took photos. So they could reach out to people that were there and see if they can bring back the nostalgia and then open it up again in Chicago. So it was a great Italian restaurant, but they tried to do something else. Why don't they stay in their genre and, open up another Italian restaurant? And so, anyways, that was Chicago's very own. And important people, when they came to Chicago, they went to Marchetti's. So I think they should think about getting back. And now that Gino has all the experience and wires and metals and so on, it helps with the build out in that. So he has all kinds of construction experience now. And so they can bring back, this to redevelop. Anyways, I'm going to leave the video.